This is why you should never let social media fame control your life. This is the story of the boy who lured his neighbor to his death for TikTok clout. 19-year-old 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙚 would harass his neighbors for 2 years until they finally had enough. Lots of events led up to this incident, many involving 𝙎𝙤's reckless driving. 𝙎𝙤 was emancipated at 17, joined the National Guard, and then moved in with his grandparents. And immediately he started having conflicts with his neighbors. His neighbors were the 𝙎𝙗𝙧𝙚s, and they were upset with how reckless 𝙎𝙤 would drive past their house. 𝙎𝙤 would purposely taunt his neighbors to get reactions out of them and record it in hopes that he could post it and gain some TikTok clout. Pretty sure his account got banned, so I'll be posting his videos on my Instagram story so my video doesn't get taken down. One day, 𝙎𝙤 posted a video on TikTok of an argument he had with the neighbor's wife, calling her a Karen, and the video got 3 million views. The comments on the video were encouraging 𝙎𝙤 to continue to mess with his neighbors. And in a desperate attempt for fame, that's exactly what he did. He continued with his reckless driving. A former National Guard continues to terrorize the safety of his community for views. Yet when he called the police, he painted himself as the victim. Police didn't interfere, so the situation turned deadly. You won't believe what happens next. Part 2 of why you should never let social media fame control your life. The story of the boy who lured his neighbor to his death for TikTok clout. So 𝙎𝙤 continues to terrorize his neighbors. Since the video of him calling his neighbor a Karen went viral, he thought it was his time to shine. Mind you, the neighbors reported him to the police several times. They said that there was nothing that they could do because coronavirus caused all the courts to be closed. 𝙎𝙤 had even tried to run over the neighbor's son with his car. This kid was crazy, like actually insane. He already had a criminal record. After 𝙎𝙤 tries to run over the neighbor's son, Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚, the dad, drives onto the road to block 𝙎𝙤's car. I mean, at this point, Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚 was probably thinking, okay, the police won't do anything. It's been 2 years and this kid is still messing with us. Time to take matters into my own hands. And that decision resulted in brutal death. So then 𝙎𝙤 speeds back to his house and runs inside. On his front porch, his girlfriend is already standing there. She's recording this whole thing. And why is she standing there and recording? Because her and 𝙎𝙤 planned this whole thing. They could record it and put it on TikTok. Neighbor's whole family follows 𝙎𝙤 back onto his property. 𝙎𝙤 comes out of his house with a stun gun and several knives. Part 3 of why you should never let social media fame control your life. Story of a boy who lured his neighbor to his death for TikTok clout. So 𝙎𝙤 comes out of his house with a stun gun and several knives. Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚 tries to grab 𝙎𝙤. 𝙎𝙤 slashes Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚's arm with his knife. 𝙎𝙤 then runs away into his garage. Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚 follows 𝙎𝙤 into his garage. 𝙎𝙤 then fires his stun gun at Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚 several times, and then proceeded to attack him and stab him under the armpit, which punctured his lung. And that resulted in Mr. 𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙚's death. The whole incident was caught on video because 𝙎𝙤's girlfriend was recording. She later on told the police that she recorded because she wanted it to go viral. And somehow, after brutally murdering a man, 𝙎𝙤 calls the police and paints himself as the victim. This is part of the 911 call. What he says will shock you.
911, where's your emergency? There's blood all over the place. I just got assaulted and jumped. Are you the one that got stabbed? No, that was the other victim, but I got beat up really bad and I had blood all over me.
Storytime at the time I dated a married man and his wife walked in on us. Mind you, I am 17, child. I promise it will all make sense at the end, just keep watching. This literally happened in June. I turned 17 in May. I had just turned 17. Just makes everything worse. Let's just get into it. So at this time, my TikTok page was like plummeting. It was after I exposed my racist school and I started getting all those death threats. I basically had to stay off TikTok for a while and social media in general. So I wasn't really getting a lot of notice from anyone. But one day I noticed that this guy was liking all of my videos. Let me tell you this, man. Fine. This man was extra fine. So I was like, let me go ahead and shoot my shot. Honestly, if anyone were to blow up my notice like that, I'd probably follow them anyway. So I followed him. Worst mistake of my life. The thing though is he only had a profile picture, but he did have a video. In the video, he was using a filter, so his face was covered up, but his hair and his bone structure matched his profile picture. So I was like, okay, this is him. I'm not gonna get catfish. Everything is good. Right? Anyway, so he DMs me on TikTok. He gives me his number. Text him and we start talking. He tells me that he's 19. Wait until you find out his actual age. Part 2? Part 2 of the time I dated a married man and his wife walked in on us. So yeah, he tells me that he's 19. I'm 17, so I was thinking it's only 2 years and we're both at a very mature age. I was like, okay, that's fine. So we start talking more and we click like this. I really thought that I found the one for me. We had the same personality, same humor. We were interested in the same things. I had been single for 17 years, so I was excited. We keep talking and we plan to hang out one day. He said he wanted to take me on a little date or whatever. I was like, free food. Say fucking Liz. So he comes to pick me up and we go out to a restaurant. Everything's good. I go home. Everything's fine. After that, we plan to hang out again and we go on another date. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Get home safely and I think everything's going good. But things start to get a little weird because the more as time went on, the more we would text and the more we would call. He started to randomly hang up when we were on FaceTime, or he would randomly put me on mute, or he would talk really quiet. I would ask him like why he was doing that, and he would say, oh, my phone is glitching. Me being a dumb bitch, I believed it. I was like, you know what? All men aren't trash. Let me give him a chance. We continued to hang out. We hang out like 4 or 5 times until the night his wife came home. Part 3 of the time I dated a married man and his wife walked in on us. Okay, so since everything's going good, we continue to go on dates. We go on 3 or 4 dates, and the last time we hung out was at his house. I was kind of confused on how he had a house at 19, but he said that he had a family business that he invested in. That's how he made his money, so he basically had his life set up for him. So I'm thinking, child, oh, he got money, he's cute, he has a nice personality, he's sweet, like what could go wrong? Here's what went wrong. So like I said, the last time we hung out was at his house. We're at his house, everything's good, we're watching a movie, and a knock on the door. It's like, okay, it's probably just like, I don't know, a delivery. He's gonna tell me, go in that room. Like trying to rush me, like, go in that room, go in that room. Obviously something fishy is going on here if he's trying to rush me to hide. So I'm like, what's going on? His wife, who is the one who was knocking on the door, heard my voice and starts yelling. So now I'm like, what did I just get myself into? I am not trying to fight nobody today. I'm definitely not gonna fight over no boy. So I'm just looking at him like, you got some explaining to do. So he goes and opens the door for his wife. And this is what happened. Story time at the time I dated a married man and his wife walked in on us. So I'm at his house and his wife knocks on the door. She's yelling. She's clearly mad. I'm like, I am not about to get beat up. I have to defend myself. Because we all know those girls that get mad at the girl that their boyfriend cheats on them with instead of getting mad at the boyfriend. So I had to prepare myself. I put my shoes on. I had some rings in my purse. I put those on. I was ready to fight thinking I was going to get attacked. So I had to defend myself. Yeah, so he goes to open the door for his wife. She walks in and stares dead at me. And I'm just like the most awkwardest thing ever. She looks at him and screams, you have kids! At that point, I was ready to go because I know I just got catfished. She starts going off on him and I have really bad anxiety, so I zone out. And she looks at me and she goes, who the hell are you? I snap back and I'm like, I'm 17. I don't know what's going on. I don't want any part of this. I was so fucking scared. I just wanted to get out of there. It's like, I did not know. I will leave right now. So I left. I called a friend to come get me because he's the one who drove me to his house. I don't know what happened with them, but I received this text message an hour later from his phone. Part 5 of the time I dated a married man and his wife walked in on us. So after I received that text message from her, here it is again. I texted her back and she blocked me right after. I forgot to add that in the last part when she came in and started yelling and then she looked at me and she was like, who the hell are you? I just automatically screamed my age because I was so scared. She was like, stop lying to me because this man is damn near 30. I don't know his exact age, but he's around 30 years old. This means I had just turned 17. I was going on dates and hanging out with a man who was damn near 30 years old. The whole entire time, I was thinking that he was 19. I guess nowadays, you really cannot tell people's age. Someone could be 16 looking 25. It could be damn near 30 looking 19. The most disgusting part of all of this is the fact that the whole entire time, he knew that I was 17. The time my crazy neighbor tried to go on a killing spree in our neighborhood. This wasn't no average killing spree. Dude had a whole rifle. He was going into people's backyard, jumping fences, literally trying to break into people's homes. Let's get ready for the story time. So I don't exactly remember when this happened. It happened a few years ago when I was still in high school because I just graduated this year and I know that another one of my friends that went to that school and lives in this same neighborhood saw him in their backyard. So this guy was literally our next door neighbor. I've lived in the same neighborhood since 4th grade and he was here when we moved here. Him and my dad honestly had a really good bond. If one of them needed a lawnmower, they would let them borrow it. And I was even in band at one point and I was selling butter braids because they do it for a fundraiser. And he bought several of my butter braids. I got hella changed. I genuinely thought this man was kind-hearted until this night. I was chilling in my room and all of a sudden I see a light flashing through my window. Obviously I go to check it out and it's police. Several police. One of them waves their hand like this, trying to get me to close the blind. So I do and go tell my family what I just saw. And we hear a knock on the door. Thinking it's police, we go to open the door. It's our crazy neighbor with a rifle. Part 2 of the time my crazy neighbor tried to go on a killing spree in our neighborhood. Like I said, we thought it was going to be police at the door. We have a doorbell, and whenever someone doesn't use our doorbell, it's usually police. And the fact that I just saw the police outside, I thought it was going to be them. But no, child, it was our crazy neighbor with a rifle. Mind you, at this point in time, I did not see the rifle. I was scared. My stomach was in my ass type beat. I was hiding behind my sister. Like, y'all keep all that. Didn't see his rifle, but I did get to glance at him though. He looked intoxicated. I don't think he was, and I'll explain that later. Yeah, as soon as my dad opens the door and our neighbor sees us, he says something along the lines of, I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Dad immediately shuts the door in his face. Dad turns around to the rest of us and tells us that he saw a rifle at his feet. At this point, I'm thinking, child, I know this man did not just knock on our door to hide a gun. Then we could open the door and he could shoot us, right? Oh, hell no, it's time to evacuate. I should call the police instead. But while one of my family members was on the phone with the dispatcher, we heard another knock on the door. This time it followed up with them announcing that they were the police. The police officer was shaking. He said we needed to evacuate immediately because our crazy neighbor was in our backyard trying to break in. Part 3 of the time my crazy neighbor tried to go on a killing spree in our neighborhood. The police knock on our door and tell us that we have to evacuate because our crazy neighbor is now in our backyard trying to break into our house. So this means that he was still on our property after we closed the door on him. He literally went to our backyard after we slammed the door in his face and was trying to figure out a way to get in through the back. Who the fuck do you expect to let you in their house if you have a rifle? Understand that he was trying to hide it, but he was not doing a very good job. Okay, so we frantically start packing. We hear yelling outside, we hear dogs barking. The police basically had him cornered in our backyard. So we had to get out of there as quickly and safely as possible. So we have police surrounding our house. We all finish packing and go inside our garage so we can get out from there because it's safer. There were literal police cars following us all the way to the hotel. Once we got into the hotel, they told us that they were going to call us when we were good to go back home. We only stayed at that hotel for one night. And once they called us the next morning to tell us that we were good to go back home, my dad asks them exactly what happened. Apparently that night there was 2 boys across the street playing basketball. It was really late at night and he was extremely tired and he had work the next day. He kindly came out and asked the boys to be quiet. They kept being loud. It only went downhill from there. Part 4 of the time my crazy neighbor tried to go on a killing spree in our neighborhood. But yeah, based off what the police told us was he kept having to come outside to tell the boys to be quiet. He had to work early the next day, so he was getting really frustrated. Boys were being really rude about it and just laughing at him and just like poking fun at him and making fun of him and stuff. He got really angry and he went back into his house, grabbed his rifle, came back out, and threatened the boys. The rifle in his hand. Obviously the boys run back inside and call the police. He didn't shoot at them. He had a gun in his hand, he was cornered, he didn't shoot at anyone. Like I said in a previous video, it seemed like he was intoxicated, but I don't think that he was. I genuinely think that he had major mental issues and something just really triggered him that night. Either it was the boys or the stress just got built up too much. I genuinely think that he did not want to hurt anyone. I don't know exactly what happened that night. He had a rifle, like if he wanted to hurt somebody, he could hurt somebody, but he didn't. I'm guessing the rifle was genuinely just for intimidation. I don't know, don't take my word on it. After we came back to our house, that man was gone. We haven't talked to him or heard about him since. This is a quick story time on how I threw up on my first kiss. No, I never recovered from this moment. It still plays in my head every day. But one day goes by without me thinking of it. But anyway, I met this guy through a mutual friend. His friend went to my school, he went to a different school. One day she just sends me his Snapchat and she tells me to talk to him. Honestly, with the amount of times that boys have screwed me over, I was not feeling it. Honestly, he didn't look like a player. I had a feeling that he could have been genuine. Honestly, was not the cutest, but he still had a good personality, so I still talked to him. Also, at this point in my life, I was going through a really hard time. He was just there to always listen and give me advice, being my person. Regardless of his looks, his effort was sexy. I was like, shit, you trying to get a bonky? You trying to get some of this banana? You trying to drown it in? You trying to... or no? We decided to hang out one day. I get all cute. I got on my cute little outfit. My hair is all cute. My makeup is all done. Slay. He texts me, tells me that he's here. Go outside, get in his car, and damn, this motherfucker stank. It was unbearably bad. And child, he kept talking windows up. Couldn't breathe. But I'm gonna hit y'all with the part 2. Part 2 of the time I threw up on my first kiss. So he comes to pick me up, but as soon as I get into his car, he stinks. And the more he talks, like, just filling up the car with his hot ass breath. I opened up the car door. I said, oh shit. I gotta tie my shoe. Trying to breathe. Just trying to get the circulation going again. I start thinking to myself, like, I'm not going out like this. There's no way. No. If he stinks, I'm gonna tell him. Like, I'm a big-hearted person, y'all. I did not have the heart, so I just dealt with it. I finished tying my shoe, and so I'm in the car acting uneasy. And we're about to pull out of my neighborhood. Where we're going, I don't even know. I asked him, he says we're going back to his house. I'm like, please no. Please. So I hit him with the quick, I love taking showers. That shit is so relaxing. It's beautiful. It's an art. Everybody should love showers. I'm guessing that he did not know that he stank. After I said that, I was expecting him to come up with an excuse, but he just laughs. Nigga, what's funny? I'm about to suffocate to death. Once you stank, you ain't going back from that. I'm not fucking with you no more. I could just not do it no more, y'all. I was like, I was like, you stink. What he does next? Part 3 of the time I threw up on my first kiss. So he's stinking hot ass breath, filling up the car. I just could not take it no more. I had to tell him. I honestly felt bad because it could have been a medical condition. But if it was a medical condition, he probably would have warned me. Man, I ain't getting a warning, child. Yeah, I tell him that he stinks because I'm not about to put myself through this. And he pulls into a restaurant and parks the car. He did not say anything after I told him that he was stinking wanking. And this is what happened when we parked. I was like, no, do not try to kiss me right now. I was terrified. And as soon as that motherfucker put me 1 inch close to his face, I threw up everywhere. I swear it was everything that was building up. Everything that was in my stomach for like a week. It just came out everywhere. On his face, on him, in his mouth. I mean, shit happens. What can you do? It's not my fault. He should have never stunk like that. So he just goes, what the fuck? And I know he ain't what the fuck in me. Remember, you the one that stank, not me. So we end up driving home and I block him, child. Story time at the time my Tinder date kidnapped me and left me out in a big field in the middle of nowhere. And trust me, you're gonna want to sit down for this story time. This happened to me as a senior in high school, so I had just turned 18. Felt like I was getting old and I needed to find a partner before I became too old and wrinkly and nobody wanted me anymore. My friends told me to download Tinder and I met this guy named Kyle. He was a sophomore in college going to the same college that I was planning on going to after I graduated. He only lived 30 minutes away and he was really sweet, so I thought I could really grow a strong bond with this man. We FaceTimed a few times before we decided to go to the movies together. After the movie, we went back to his apartment. He said that his apartment was close to the college, but we were driving pretty far from the college. We get to his apartment and he offers me a drink. Me being stupid, I take the drink and I drink it. I noticed that my data was completely shut off and there was no Wi-Fi. So I ask him why and he takes a minute to answer. He says he just couldn't afford it, which was a big red flag. Because how did he FaceTime me all those times at his place? I automatically lose trust for him. He heads to the bathroom and I take that opportunity to look around. I noticed this black bag and I opened it. Something was telling me to look in that bag and what I saw will blow your mind. Part 2 of the time my Tinder date kidnapped me and left me out in a big field in the middle of nowhere. So he leaves the room and I decide to look around. I see this suspicious looking black bag and I decide to look inside. It was filled with knives covered in blood. I was in denial, child. I was like, maybe it's ketchup. I was coming up with every excuse trying to calm myself down. Because there is no way that I was so unlucky and got paired up on Tinder with a murderer. Now my fingerprints are on the bag. I needed to figure out a way to get home ASAP. I start feeling unusually tired. Like I could fall asleep any second. And I remembered that drink that he gave me when I first arrived at his apartment, he probably put something in it. My main goal now was just to stay awake. He came back in the room, I acted like everything was fine. He's a big man and if he knew that I was onto him, everything could have went south. Tell him that I'm getting pretty tired and I'm ready to go home. Last thing I wanted to do was get in a car with him again. I wasn't even 100% sure where I was. Before we leave the room, I see him grab the black bag. We get into the car. Unable to fight off the medicine, I drift asleep. And when I wake up, we were on a deserted road surrounded by big fields. Part 3 of the time my Tinder date kidnapped me and left me out in a big field in the middle of nowhere. Forgot to mention in the last part, after he grabbed the black bag when we were about to leave, I asked him why he was grabbing it. He said he was going to drop it off to a friend after he dropped me off back home. Which was a fat lie, and here's why. Once I wake up, I noticed that we're on a deserted road surrounded by big fields. I instantly started to freak out because I knew that you did not have to pass these big fields to get back to my house. I was even kidnapped and there was nothing that I could do. He looks over, notices that I'm awake, and looks right back at the road. I try to calm down so things don't get hectic because like I said, he was a big man. Then I ask him where we're going. He just tells me to go back to sleep. Yeah, like, let me just take a nap right now in the car with a stranger who has a bag full of knives, taking me to an unknown location. What a good idea. Obviously, I did not go back to sleep. I had to think of a plan. Little did Kyle know, I always keep a taser in my purse, no matter where I'm going. It was literally my last resort. There was nothing else that I could do. I had to single-handedly take him out, and that's what I did. Quickly reached into my purse, got my taser, and tased him in the face. And that's when things went south. Part 4 of the time my Tinder date kidnapped me and left me out in a big field in the middle of nowhere. So we're in the car and I tase him in the face with my taser. And once I realized that I had access to my taser, I knew that he was not very smart because he put something in my drink and I passed out. It means he could have looked at my personal belongings and seen the taser, but he didn't. So after I tase him in the face, he swerves the car. He grabs me by my hair. So I take off my seatbelt, turn to him, put my legs up, and start kicking. Now, I don't have very much arm strength, but these legs gonna kill you. At this point, he's not even driving anymore. The car is going full speed by itself. So as I'm kicking him in the face, he reaches for the black bag which was on his lap. That's when I did. I quickly reach behind me, unlock the door, literally roll out. I see the car continue to swerve for a few seconds after, but then he manages to make it stable again. He just keeps going straight, never turns back. So now I'm in the middle of nowhere and all I see is big fields for miles and miles. My purse, my taser, and my phone were nowhere to be found. So I start walking. I walk for what seems like hours until I finally start seeing houses. And to the first one I see, they let me in, I tell them what happened. They let me use their phone so I can call the police. Part 5 of the time my Tinder date kidnapped me and left me out in a big field in the middle of nowhere. So now I'm in someone's house and I'm safe and they let me call the police. Police arrive and then I tell them what happened. I gave them a description, I told them everything that I could remember from that night. And I showed them his Tinder page. One of the officers go back to their car. And when they come back, they let me know that his name is not in the system. And at that point, I'm confused. Because did this man fake his identity as well? The police officers ask me where I live and I let them know. And they go, wow, that's pretty far from here. And so I'm like, how far? They answer, about 3 hours away. So that means I was knocked out in his car for 3 hours. I knew we were in the car for 3 hours because going to his apartment did not feel like an hour drive. He was driving for 3 hours. At that point, I'm spooked. And I just want to go home. So the police officers take me home and they told me they do more background checks on him and call me and let me know. I got a call like a week later and they told me his real name was Jason. He wasn't in college. He was wanted in Texas for kidnapping some other girls. Story time on how I found out my best friend was 5 months pregnant with my boyfriend's baby. And not only was she pregnant by my boyfriend, no, he was obsessed with me and tried to replace me. Receipts included. Strap in. Forgot to mention, my best friend is 16, my boyfriend is 18, and I am 17. So me and my best friend would have been friends for 2 years. Me and my boyfriend had only been dating for like 3-4 months. I told my best friend everything about my relationship. He knew about every single argument, every single breakup. Eventually it got to the point where we all three would hang out with each other. I was extremely close with my boyfriend and my best friend. They were basically the people closest to me in my life at that time. We all started telling each other everything. But it started to get weird when I noticed that some things I told my best friend, my boyfriend would all of a sudden know about, and some things I only told my boyfriend, my best friend would all of a sudden know about. Which means that they were communicating without me knowing. So, that's suspicious. At one point, we all went to this party together. They all of a sudden just disappear, and I'm looking for them for like half an hour, calling, texting, no response. So I start asking people. This one specific person said, oh, I saw them go upstairs, holding hands, just the two of them. I was ready to kill. Part 2 of how I found out my best friend was 5 months pregnant with my boyfriend's baby. Not only did she get pregnant by him, no, she was obsessed with me and tried to replace me. So we're at the party and my boyfriend and my best friend are nowhere to be seen. So I ask around and someone tells me that they saw them go upstairs together. So upstairs I go. I see my boyfriend and he's just talking to some friends. Well, I'm like, we all friends. I want to talk too. Where the fuck were you? He's like, oh, I was just up here, you know, chilling with the homies. We're all standing in front of a door, and then I see my best friend walk out of the bathroom that's right across that door. At the time, I didn't really put the pieces together that they just got freaky. But several months after the party, I did start to realize something. My best friend was gaining weight. Everybody else noticed it too. And during these months, my boyfriend also got a new job. We couldn't see each other as much. But like I said, everyone noticed that my best friend was gaining weight. And rumors started to spread that she was pregnant. But no one knew who was the dad. Like I said, me and my best friend told each other everything. So if she was going to tell anybody who the baby daddy was, it would have been me. But I had no clue. She said she was just gaining weight. She texted me and asked if me, her, and my boyfriend could all meet up somewhere to talk. That talk did not end well. Part 3 of how I found out my best friend was 5 months pregnant with my boyfriend's baby. Not only was she pregnant, she was obsessed with me and tried to replace me. Receipts included, child. Okay, so rumors are going around that my best friend is pregnant. She texts me and says she wants me, my boyfriend, and her to all meet up somewhere. All 3 of us have not hung out together in a while, so I was down. So we meet up at her house. Her parents weren't home, we had the house to ourselves, so it was just the best place to meet up. But when I get there, my boyfriend and my best friend are already sitting on the couch. I cannot believe my eyes, child. This girl had a pregnancy test in her hand. I was like, put that shit away. I'm not fucking playing with you right now. Put that shit away. He basically tells me that it's exactly what it looks like. Told me that it happened at the party. By this time, it was April. I'm thinking, child, that's 5 months. They was mute for 5 months. I was dating this man who is 18, about to be 19, and got my just turned 16 best friend pregnant. But she wasn't apologetic. Good sis was laughing. Something was funny, or she planned this shit all along, which was proven right after I got this text message from her after I blacked out and woke up in jail. Pause to read. This is the time I fought my mom because her boyfriend was touching me in my sleep and she defended him. I was 16 when this happened. I'm 20 years old now. He was touching me, she knew about it, and she didn't do anything. Yes, they're still together till this day, and no, I do not talk to either of them. Let's get into it. So my mom had just recently divorced my dad, and so she got a new boyfriend. His name was 𝙎𝙤𝙗𝙧𝙚. Now let me tell you, I was not rocking with 𝙎𝙤𝙗 from jump because he was always a little too touchy. If I sat down next to him, he'd squeeze my knee, would sneak up behind me and rub my shoulder. And when he would hug me, his hands would go a little too far down my back. Whenever he would come over, I'd just stay in my room. But one night, it was like damn near midnight. Mind you, I'm asleep because I don't play about my sleep. I wake up suddenly because I had a feeling somebody was in my room. So I turn on my lamp that's on the side of my bed. When I turn around, I see 𝙎𝙤𝙗𝙧𝙚 in my room with his back turned towards me, trying to sneak out of my room. But not only was he trying to sneak out of my room, he had my panties in his hands. So I look under my covers, and sure enough, my panties are gone. This is part 2 of when I fought my mom because her boyfriend was touching me in my sleep and she defended him. So I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night to see him trying to sneak out of my room with my panties in his hands. Instant tears started flooding my eyes because I knew what he had done. And I knew that if I told anyone, no one would believe me. Because like I said, I didn't like him from jump because he was always too touchy. And I told my mom how I felt that way, and she told me that I need to start wearing less revealing clothes. But back to what I was saying. Like that motherfucking low-life ass piece of shit notices that I woke up, he runs out of the room, and then I hear him leave through the front door. So I quickly get dressed so I could go tell my mom what happened because I didn't know what else to do. I wake her up and go, Ma, 𝙎𝙤𝙗𝙧𝙚 just touched me in my sleep. He says, girl, stop making up these low fantasies in your head and go back to sleep. And so I told her, no, I woke up in the middle of him trying to leave my room with my panties in his hands, and once he noticed that I saw him, he left through the front door. Then she gets mad at me and starts yelling at me and says, and I quote, I don't need you running men out my house. That's crazy because my dad was her 5th husband. 𝙎𝙤𝙗𝙧𝙚 was about to be her 6th. If anybody was running men out this house, it was her. I'm tired of her BS at this point. She's yelling all up in my face, and so I shove her. This is where it gets crazy. Part 3 of the time I fought my mom because her boyfriend touched me in my sleep and she defended him. So I woke up my mom to tell her that her boyfriend had just touched me in my sleep. And she gets mad at me and starts yelling and screaming at me. But the amount of shit that she put me through, she had no right. So I'm sick of her BS at this point, and so I shove her. I had never put my hands on my mama before this. My mama deserved to get her ass whooped. How toxic she was. If she wasn't my mama, if she was just some other regular bitch, I probably would have already threw hands with her like 10 times. So now we're on the floor of her bedroom, scrapping it out. No, I did not show her no mercy. Obviously, I went and whooped her ass because 16 years of being mistreated. Come on, at this point, I had a heart of steel and hands of steel. She's screaming and she's yelling and she's talking about, I'm gonna call the police on you. I was like, call them. After I tell them what happened, they're gonna be on the look for your boyfriend. She tells me to get my stuff and get out. I said, say less, so I start packing. I texted a close friend who I had already told about 𝙬𝙤 being a creep, and they came to get me. I lived with that friend for 2 years until I turned 18 and moved into my own place. I have an amazing boyfriend who understands my trauma and takes everything slow with me. I no longer have contact with 𝙬𝙤 or my mom, and now I only see them through social media posts. This is a story about the time I got arrested because I was with my friend when she stole from Kroger. So I was at Kroger looking for snacks with my friend, let's call her Kaylee. Kaylee goes and wanders off somewhere and leaves me in the bread aisle. She didn't tell me where she was going, but about 10 minutes later she came back with a pair of lashes in her hands. She tells me she paid for the lashes up front and to put them in my pocket. I didn't know that she was stealing, so I put them in my pocket. One of the workers saw and called the police. When the police arrive, Kaylee grabs the lashes and tries to make a run for it. So I look after her and I yell, "Justice for 𝙤𝙤 Bernard." Why did I yell that, you may ask? Because this story didn't actually happen. But since you're watching, you might as well finish the video. A somewhat similar situation did happen to a black man named 𝙤𝙤 Bernard who was executed last night at 9:27 p.m. for a crime he did not commit. He was pressed with 2 murder charges for only being an accomplice to a murder. He didn't murder anyone, yet he still got charged with murder. Now Trump could have stopped all of this, but he didn't have enough time to save a black man from being executed. He was too busy tweeting. And this is one of the many tweets that he made while he could have been preventing the execution. So is the world really killing itself? Or will y'all not just stop killing black people?